here today at Aria in Brisbane, which is the winner of the Queensland State Awards wine list, and I'm with Brian Croser, currently Tapanappa. Welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Nice to be in Brisbane.
Indeed. Now, you've done pretty much everything in the industry.
Not quite, but something.
Yeah. I'd like to know what you have, but we'll get to that. At the moment, Tapanappa is your focus.
It is. Tapanappa was started in 2003 when, after Lion Nathan took over my company, Petaluma, and we decided to start again. Tapanappa is an Aboriginal word that means stick to the path. We're sticking to the path of terroir-driven wines. We have 3 vineyards, total area less than 15 hectares, so it's a tiny company making tiny quantities of wine. We have obviously the Tears vineyard in the Piccadilly Valley where we make Chardonnay, and you know of Petaluma. Tears Chardonnay has been made since 1996.
That's your vineyard, but you share it with them, is that correct?
It actually belongs to my wife, so I have to plead with her for grapes, as does Petaluma. So it's, that vineyard is where the winery is, which we still own, and where I live. So Tears vineyard is the sort of vineyard I peer out on, using that word advisedly, when I wake up in the morning. Yes. We also have a brand new vineyard down on the Fleurieu Peninsula called Foggy Hill, which is in a very cool location where we grow Pinot Noir. And finally, down in the southeast, on the border of Coonawarra, part of the Coonawarra boundary dispute in 2000, is what was the Coppermurra vineyard, planted in 1974, which we bought and renamed Whalebone Vineyard. And the Merlot Cab Franc comes from the Whalebone Vineyard.
And that's because they actually found fossil whalebones in them.
We did, yeah. Well, our bulldozer driver did. He sort of drove along and suddenly started to head towards the centre of the earth. Gravity got the better of him.
In a bulldozer?
In a bulldozer, a big D9, and it broke through the top of a cave. The limestone in the Whalebone Vineyard is 35 million years old, which is much older than the 1 million year old Coonawarra limestone just over the hill. In fact, it's exactly the same age as Saint-Emilion, which we'll talk a little bit about. So it's the same limestone age. And it's riddled with caves. And he cracked through the top of the dome of the cave and started to head down, but fortunately he managed to reverse out. He hasn't been back for a while, and I think his wife had a fair bit of washing to do. But in the bottom of the cave there are bones of the megafauna, the giant kangaroos and giant emus and giant wombats that have fallen in. But in the wall of the cave there's the skeleton of a 35 million year old whale. That's how we know it's 35 million years old, because the paleontologists have aged the skeleton.
Carbon dating or whatever they do now.
I don't think it would look much like a humpback or a great southern right whale, but it's definitely a whale.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, hence the Whalebone Vineyard. The vineyard was originally planted by the city architect of Adelaide and a builder and a candlestick maker and a baker and a whole group of amateurs in 1974, and they planted Cabernet and Shiraz, Merlot and Cab Franc. And for us it's been an exercise in working out just where the strength of the vineyard is, and it's taken us a while. We made a Cabernet Shiraz. We intended to throw the Merlot in with that, and that didn't work because the Merlot is such a big, strong, structured wine out of this vineyard, off this old limestone. So we put the Merlot on its own. That worked, and over time the Merlot, I think, has been recognised a lot more than the Cabernet Shiraz blend, or more than the Cabernet Shiraz blend, as being unique in its terroir sort of expression. So in 2007 we got the idea, well, why don't we put the Franc with the Merlot? And we did, and I think that's the answer.
Okay.
Yeah. But we only have 1.2 hectares of Merlot and we only have 0.6 hectares of Cabernet Franc, so it's a very tiny bottling. Yeah.
The Pinot, can you tell us a bit about, even though we haven't got Pinot with us today, can you tell us, because that's for me that's one of your most exciting wines.
After Petaluma was purchased, I decided I needed a change of life and decided to go back to my roots, which was I grew up on a sheep farm in Clare. So I looked for a sheep farm, and we bought one on the Fleurieu Peninsula at Parawa, which is the highest point of the Fleurieu Peninsula, 8 kilometres from the sea, halfway between Victor Harbour and Cape Jarvis. Only 20 k's from the head of Kangaroo Island, which you can see out in the Great Southern Ocean. And when we bought it, Anne, who must be obeyed, said, "You're not going to plant vines here, are you?" And I said, "No," softly. And anyway, we bought it in February of 2003, and by December we had 2 hectares of Pinot. She didn't visit the farm for quite a while, and when she came down they were there. And
it's a bit late then.
A bit late.
Yeah. This is the place you're telling me with all the snakes?
Yes, near there. Yeah.
Just for anyone thinking of visiting.
Yeah. So we have this spot on a north-facing hill, 67 million year old laterite, which is ironstone, gravelly soil, in a climate that's cooler than Burgundy, cooler than our vineyards in Oregon by a long way.
Is that right?
Oregon's about 20 degree days centigrade where we're growing Riesling, and this is 1135. Piccadilly Valley is 1175 degree days, which is the heat summation for the summer.
So how does it compare with, say, Tasmania or Macedon?
Macedon is about the same at 1135, and Tasmania you'd probably find some cooler places, but most of Tasmania is between 1100 and 1200. The Coal River, for example, would be up around 1200.
Okay. I didn't realise
so
South Australia was anywhere quite that cold.
Oh, yeah, and Mount Gambier you'd probably get down to less than 1135. That's the problem. South Australia is defined by the hot Barossa Valley or the warm McLaren Vale. In fact, in South Australia there's a lot of cool climate grape growing area through the Adelaide Hills and along the southern coast.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a perfect place to grow Pinot from my viewpoint. We planted on Burgundian style, very low little vines on very close spacing, 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres, and it's now 6 years old and producing terrific wines.
The ones I've seen are all
actually
very
8
exciting.
years old. Yeah.
So Brian, thank you so much for coming on Spitbucket. Great pleasure to see you again.
And the same, Ken.
And cheers. Remember, we spit so you don't have to.